Hello, welcome to Train Signal. This is the Managing Rules lesson in the System Center 2012 Operations Manager Training course. So why do you use rules? Well, a rule serves a similar purpose as a monitor, but it does so through the collection of performance data or by running scripts. All collected data from a rule is stored in the data warehouse, making the use of rules superior when ongoing data collection and analysis is a top priority. Now, like a monitor, with a rule, you can raise an alert to the Operations Manager Operations Console, but the objects included in a rule cannot be monitored for health. Rules can be very powerful when it comes to ongoing information about monitored objects. So you can't say with a rule, I want to make sure that my hard drive stays within a particular space capacity. But you can say, how much capacity does my hard drive have? So with a monitor, you could say, if my hard drive goes below 10%, raise an alert. With a rule, you could say, gather for me the amount of hard disk space that's available right now, and that might be 10%. So you get to start to see how rules and monitors might work together. So a rule could say, give me the hard drive value, and the monitor would say, oop, it's below 10%, raise an alert. When it comes to rules, they have some pretty significant business goals. One is to gather ongoing information about managed objects. And from a planning perspective, that can be invaluable to a CIO. This enables a more substantial historical analysis of the overall computing environment. Now, you remember your operations database is limited to just a certain number of days of information, and that's not going to give you good long-term trending information about the environment. With a rule, you can start to get that sort of information. A rule provides the basis for ongoing infrastructure improvements. Without information about how the infrastructure is operating, well, it's really hard to make plans for ongoing improvements. And it's really hard to extrapolate what's going to happen with the environment based on historicals when you don't have that much information to work with. The purpose of a rule is to provide the administrator with the information that's necessary to make good ongoing decisions with regard to improving the infrastructure. So rules. The definition is an object used to collect information that's generated by objects that are monitored by Operations Manager. For example, a rule can be created to generate an alert based on the contents of an event that you call from an event log. That's what a rule does for us. There are different kinds of rules that you can use with Operations Manager. One is an alert generating rule. For example, you could alert on backward compatibility script errors or alert on failure to load a PowerShell snap-in as the option of choice. So, with a rule, you could test to make sure that that process worked. For example, load in a PowerShell snap-in, and if it doesn't, raise an alert in the console. A collection-based rule, the percentage of logical free disk space, performance collection rule. Or can the disk be read, an event collection rule. Or timed commands, execute commands or scripts with a rule. For our purposes, we're going to do this. We're going to create a rule that watches all of the Windows Server 2008 and R2 event logs for event ID 573. We're going to tell Operations Manager that we want to suppress multiple reports of the same event. So if we see error 573 or event 573 be raised 600 times, we don't want 600 alerts. Now here's a handy tip for testing. You can actually use a utility called Event Create to test the new rule. And what you see on the screen is the command line that we'll use to create that event in the Windows event log. And with this Event Create utility, that will allow you to test whether or not Operations Manager is actually picking up event log based rules. So as you can see, it's a pretty handy little utility. So we're going to go over to the Operations Manager console now, and we're going to work on this particular demonstration. This time, we're over in the console. We're going to go to the Rules area. And I'm going to right-click Rule and choose Create a New Rule. We're going to create an alert generating rule, which is event based, and we're going to look for the NT event log, because we're going to search the event log for Windows NT type events. If you're new to Windows, it's still called Windows NT event log in a lot of places. You'll see the NT name in many different areas of Windows. So get used to it. We have to place these into a management pack, so I'm going to call this custom rules. And we'll create that management pack. And then click Next to continue. We're going to call this custom 573 rule. Remember, we're going to be looking for event ID 573. Lots of different ways to do an alert category here, but we want to do an alert rule. The rule target will be Windows computers. The Windows computer, as we've done for a number of things in this course. And the rule will be enabled when it gets started. So we'll do next. We can choose which log we'd like to use for this particular purpose. I'm going to choose the system log, because it's not really an application. We're going to have this pretend to be a system error rather than an application error, so it'll get written into the system log. Click Next. The event ID equals 573. Now you can click the triple dots there, but there's not much to see. An event source is something we're going to delete. We just are interested in event ID 573. So click Next. And you can see it's already built most of what we want for the alert. And we can decide if we want additional information. You can use custom fields if you like. And we're going to do the NetBIOS computer name here for the name of the computer on which this alert was raised. Now, notice there's an alert suppression item here. You can have Operations Manager raise an alert only one time. So basically what happens is, rather than if the same item is written to the event log 100 times, only one alert will be written to the console. And that's what we're really interested in. We want to make sure that we don't see this event get raised 100 times in the console, because that just fills the console with clutter that could hide other important pieces of information that we want to be able to see. And we'll do OK. And then we'll do create. Now that new rule has been created. I'm now going to go over to the file server, file 1 for GlobalMantic, and we're going to create this event on the server so we can see if it gets raised in the Operations Manager console. As you can see up here in the toolbar, I am indeed on the server named file 1. And I'm going to start an administrative command prompt. Now, event create, believe it or not, is a utility built right into Windows. So you don't have to actually download it or anything. And there's some examples for how to use it. And this is a way you can test your event logs to make sure that they're actually working. So I think it's pretty cool, to be perfectly honest. And I'm going to use this command prompt that I'm typing right now to generate an alert. Well, it'll generate a log entry, and then it'll generate an alert in Operations Manager. So as you can see, I've typed event create /ID 573, and this is going to generate an event with ID 573. /T information, this is going to create an informational alert. A description of Ops Manager sample event, and it's going to write it into the system log. Now I'm going to do that 5 times. And let's just go to the system log and make sure that it's actually there. So we have Windows logs, system, and we do indeed have 5 instances of ID 573. Now, let's go over to the Operations Manager console and see what happens. We are now back in the Operations Manager console, and if I select this alert that we see that was raised in the console, we're going to see that it's a custom 573 alert. This is exactly what we wanted to see. It was raised in the console as expected a couple minutes ago. And we can scroll down the page here and we can get some more information about this alert. And we can also open the alert if we wanted to. Or we can get the properties for the alert. One of the things I wanted to show you here is we have the alert source, which is file 1, which is the server we were on. But notice it has a repeat count. The alert was raised and it was repeated 4 times. So it didn't actually show you in the console that there were 5 alerts because that would have just cluttered the console. But as an administrator, you still get information about how often a particular alert is being erased, even when you suppress multiple alerts for the same potential issue on a machine. Now, if we wanted to, we could simply close this alert, pretend we took care of the issue, and the issue would go away. But now that we've actually closed the alert, if we went back over to the file server and reissued the event create command, it would re-raise the alert in the Operations Manager console. So, that's how you create a rule that will watch Windows systems for a particular event type and then raise an alert and suppress the alert if it becomes necessary. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.